Gale for this very gracious introduction. I feel very much at home for several reasons, as a space such as this affords someone like me who has transitioned from academia, from the ivory tower into the real world of politics, policy making and implementation. And so I sit at the intersection of those two worlds, what we call praxis. But more importantly, I feel at home here because what WASD has been able to do under the stewardship of ALUM is to bring to the center persons, spaces, countries, situations, stories that were previously deemed marginal and therefore remained very quiet on the policy and political agenda in international spaces such as this. I am comfortable, therefore, to ask you, Excellencies, panelists, specially invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, to permit me to situate my remarks within the context of the realities of small island states. Small island developing states such as my own, St. Lucia, which must continue to pursue development in the face of global economic challenges and against the backdrop of the unpredictable ferocity of the events of climate change. As small island developing states, we recognize that despite our limited and depleting resources, we must position ourselves to continue to build resilience in all spheres. Of necessity, we must embrace a holistic notion of resilience: physical or infrastructural, environmental, fiscal, human, and social. In fact, the recently concluded budget debate in my parliament last week pivoted around the theme, building resilience today to secure our future. Resilience building, therefore, speaks to strengthening physical, infrastructural, social, human, and fiscal resilience. While we acknowledge the inherent vulnerabilities of an island state such as mine, it is incumbent on policymakers and the political directorate to shield islands, small island states from avoidable vulnerabilities and to better bolster the country to withstand the vagaries of unavoidable vulnerabilities and their impacts. With respect to building human resilience, we cannot make the kind of progress that is necessary if we continue to starve critical social sectors in particular, such as health and education, of the requisite resources to finance the transformative change that we envisage. It is for this reason that partnerships are so critical. There is a further recognition that SIDS must develop structures and mechanisms that strategically harness resources at all levels of society. Innovate so as to ensure that true inclusiveness is practiced. Build a robust system that demonstrates good governance of and to the people, and to give due consideration to the involvement of the private sector in the pursuit of development. The 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development provides an opportunity for countries such as St. Lucia to revisit its processes, policies, and development plans to ensure that strategies are instituted to mobilize partnerships and strengthen cooperation. This is currently being done with the vision of addressing our development issues that we are determined to resolve as we work towards the achievement of this agenda, notwithstanding the challenges. And there are some very concrete examples of how we've been able to do so. But more importantly, as a first step, is creating a policy framework for public-private partnerships. 2, establishing and enabling institutional framework for 2030 Agenda implementation. 3, fostering partnerships across the various sectors and, in effect, ensuring that all stakeholders have a say and can participate fully. And in St. Lucia, for example, with respect to SDG 2, end hunger, achieve food security, improve nutrition, and promote sustainable agriculture, we've been able to initiate an activity called the Good Food Revolution, which is working towards promoting improved nutrition and sustainable agricultural policies. And that, of course, we are doing in collaboration with the St. Lucia Hotel and Tourism Association, the UNDP GEF SGP, and the Inter-American Institute for Cooperation on Agriculture. SDG 3. St. Lucia is moving to ratify the Minamata Convention on Mercury and is currently pursuing enabling activities that will provide an informed position for ratification. And of course, we are doing this in partnership with the St. Lucia chapter of the Caribbean Youth Environment Network. And I can go through the various SDGs and highlight the importance of mobilizing and energizing our various partners and stakeholders. In the area of affordable and clean energy, for example, partnerships for our NDC implementation will not only exist at the local level, government and private sector, but also at the level of external developing agencies and private sector partners. Let me focus on climate action SDG 13. The practice of partnering on initiatives that involve the private sector in advocating for climate change actions has yielded significant results. The creative arts community in St. Lucia has been engaged on several occasions to help build awareness around the impacts of climate change. We all know how influential artists and stars can be in activating their fan base and their supporters. We have also been able to pursue the climate change adaptation policy, which came into being in 2015, which recognizes that climate change affects everyone and every sector, and has the strapline adapting one individual, one household, one community, one enterprise, and one sector at a time. Again, underscoring the necessity for partnerships. To our mind, it is SDG 17, Partnerships for the Goals, that undergirds all other SDGs and development pursuits. It is the gel that will determine the successful achievement of the 2030 Agenda. The extent to which we can localize the 2030 Agenda is regarded as a critical success factor in the process. Partnering of the media to promote best practices, measures, and strategies pertaining to the implementation of the SDGs is an effective way of ensuring that the populace remains informed of government's efforts. What are some of the basic principles behind our experience thus far? Transforming the way business is done, finding concrete ways through which SDGs can be promoted through PPPs, recognizing the ability of PPPs to contribute to not only socioeconomic but also socio-environmental benefits, thus promoting SDGs. In small economies such as ours, therefore, there are insufficient financial resources for government to undertake large projects. Additionally, we need to avoid placing pressure on the government budget, considering the competing demands by the various sectors. Therefore, PPPs have the potential to mobilize necessary resources and to deliver on time and on budget. It is important, therefore, to improve the sustainable coordination and cooperation between the public and private sector, thereby deriving the benefits associated with optimizing the resources, knowledge, and experience of the private sector. What is needed for successful PPPs is equipping the public institutions with right capacity, mandate, and coherent policy and legislative framework. creating the enabling environment for the private sector, providing incentives and disincentives for active engagement without compromising on potential benefits and opportunities for the country, creating adequate public awareness on the role of the private sector in contributing to the implementation of the 2030 Agenda. And in conclusion, the 2030 Agenda offers a tremendous opportunity to harness and pool our collective resources via PPPs. And we ought to create the enabling environment so we can yield the benefits which ultimately will redound to the benefit of the world's citizens, some of whom are very vulnerable and are in desperate need. Thank you.
So please remember, if we all help and do a little bit, it will make a big difference.